Yes. So are we ready? Are we starting or
Yeah.
is it usually starting?
Oh, yes, sir.
Perfect, great. So hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to AfroFinLab. I believe it's episode 20. My name is Lamine. I'm the new host, and I'll be hosting this show today. Hopefully, we'll be able to have important and meaningful conversation around crypto, learn different things and share. So first of all, I wanted to introduce myself a bit. My name is Lamine. As I said, I'm a business owner. I work my 9 to 5 is I'm a financial. I work in finances with a wealth management company. So I dabble a bit with investments in general. This is my background, and we have at the hosts today. So we have the usual panel: Sydney, Aziz, Mercy, Josh, everybody here. But today we have special guests. We have three people actually from South Africa. We have Maganthrie and Dindi, who are filmmakers, and we'll let them introduce themselves in a moment. And we have Yoliwe as well, who's a queen, we can say, in the crypto world, in the African crypto kingdom, we can say. So it's an exciting times, exciting conversation I believe we'll have today. So I wanted to let Magantri introduce themselves and what they do in general so that we can start and then we can dive into the meat of it.
So I think Dingy and Maganthrie Pillay, Dingy and Tuli, we've been very much working to shift perceptions. I think that's mostly what we try to do, using media and whatever other tools we have at our disposal, whether it's one-on-one, which is we do a lot of mentorship as well, or whether it's using the fabulous tool of video, but breaking things down and then communicating specific ideas. Um, we've made feature films, documentaries, we've done campaigns. We did a very exciting project called We Code with some young people in Langa in South Africa, which is a township, with some folks who literally taught themselves how to code and started teaching other people how to code. And this got us really excited and more really engaging with the space around IT. Crypto, I don't know, babies. We've been checking it out. But I think from our intensive conversations with Sydney and just listening to some of the AfroFinLab podcasts, we're really inspired about the possibilities for what this might offer. I don't know if you want to say anything, Dingy.
I think that pretty much covers it, except we're really happy to be on this call today and happy to see South Africa and other parts of the continent really representing really fantastically. Lamine, I'm not exactly sure where you're from.
I'm
Or
from
where you
Senegal.
are.
Where in the
Also
world you
Senegal.
are. Are you
Senegal.
also Senegal as well?
I'm from
Okay, so
Senegal. I live in Montreal, but I'm from Senegal, and
okay.
and what you're saying is important. I think AfroFinLab, what I think it's my first time hosting here, but I think it's an amazing platform in a sense. Like usually within um, it's people discussing real solutions and real issues, not only stuff that are superficial things that I believe here, the conversation that we are having here, I believe will have an impact in the future. So even if they are not mainstream ones that we see usually, these are important ones. So I'm happy to be here as well. And just so before we get to Yaliwe, I just wanted to ask, what sparked your interest into crypto other than watching these interesting folks here?
Um, I'll let you start.
Well, I think
I have my ideas.
it's easy to say that it does. It's obviously it's now, it's the future, it is the way forward in terms of what technologies are going to be embraced in a very broad and huge way. For Africa in particular, it's crucial for us to be engaged and to find ways to be at the leading edge of it in as much as that is possible. So it goes without saying that it's way too important for us not to be learning all that we can.
I'd like to just do a shout out to two legends from Senegal and for Africa, Ousmane Sembène and Djibril Diop Mambéty. Unfortunately, I never met the great Sembène, but I've read many of his books and watched many of his movies. We were very lucky to have met Djibril Diop Mambéty, and he's a major inspiration for us. So I just wanted to say that part of what is happening with crypto is that we are walking in their footsteps. So Sembène decided to use film as a way to get more people educated and empowered and decolonized. So I just wanted to do that shout out because we have the Senegalese and we have that connection as well. So we don't live in a vacuum, and I'm always reminding us that while it may feel like we're just starting out, there's been pathways that brought us there.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I feel like culture is a great medium to share information and values and stuff like that in general. And also, yeah, crypto can be, since it's fairly new, can be intimidating. So that's why we have people like Yoliwe to guide us into this new technology and what he and the doors it will open for our people. So I'll let Yoliwe introduce herself and what she does, and what she sees what impact really crypto she feels like the different cryptos that we have available and the applications that we can build upon them. What is in play for Africa according to her?
Thanks, Lamin. I don't know where to start with the introductions. Well, I'm Yoliwe Soko. I am the South African ecosystems lead at CLabs. I'm working on the Celo blockchain. I chair the United Africa Blockchain Association. I'm also studying digital finance. I don't know, I'm passionate about blockchain. I'm passionate about financial inclusion. I also run the United Africa Women in Blockchain and AI initiative. So I'm an all-round. I'm an African, and I'm really trying to drive adoption and awareness and education in my own way. So it's very, very hard for me to actually describe myself.
Oh, but you did a great job. I think you did a great job giving us your background. What do you feel is in play for Africa in regards to crypto? And since you mentioned awareness, what would you say has been the biggest hurdle in bringing awareness to people in general, to general public? Because I feel like, and that's my feeling as somebody who's fairly new to crypto as well, is that I feel like there's a transfer of wealth happening, but it is not as I would say as democratic, we can in a sense, because I feel like it takes a certain degree of knowledge in order to participate. And so what has been like in terms of educating the people and sparking interest into them, what has been the biggest hurdle for you or challenges?
Okay, so I think what I normally say is information hasn't been disseminated in a way that's familiar to people, right? I normally say this, everyone is looking at Africa except Africans. So there have been kind of tailor-made solution, kind of Chinese, one size fits all kind of solution, and it doesn't work like that. So I think information has to be disseminated in a way that speaks to the African person. Though Africa is huge, right? We do have some common problems, but we have different types of problems. And so firstly, we have to start with the general kind of information that speaks to the African person. And then we start to dig deeper into kind of localized solutions localized use cases that really speak to that problem and speaks to the person. So it's one thing to tell somebody this would work for you when it doesn't speak to their current situation. So I think that has been the biggest problem.
Absolutely.
Can
Anybody
I
has?
ask, what have you seen are ways to, I guess, overcome that hurdle when you've been trying to educate or bring awareness to people about blockchain and cryptocurrencies? What do you find has worked best for you in getting people past that point?
Okay, so firstly, I would say it's hard to teach something to somebody who doesn't know they need it, right? I have, the first thing I think about as an African, it's the same thing I talk about even in terms of entrepreneurship. We look at Nigeria and we look at Zambia, for example. I'm originally Zambian. I think that we have a lot of entrepreneurs, but it's survival, right? I'm just thinking of going out there, selling something and putting food on my table. So if somebody comes to me and tells me this will change my life, at that particular time, I don't need it. I need to feed my family. So it's hard giving somebody education that they believe they don't need, right? And as much as crypto blockchain is an equalizer in our eyes because we've been exposed, for them, it's like, what do I need it for? And then I think the biggest winners in the space in Africa have been the multi-level marketing schemes and initiatives, and they're pouring in because they're telling people, hey, are you going to make money? And you've got an opportunity to fly to Dubai, you've got an opportunity to just bring 100 people, and people are not learning, people are just trying to make money. So that has been one of the biggest problems. And another thing I realized is that people need, they need their own heroes, right? They need people who look just like them, who are doing things out there. So I've come to realize that in my brand growing personally, as a person, as a young woman pushing the space, I've seen people start coming to me and say, hey, what are you doing? I want to get involved. I've seen you in Japan, I've seen you in Russia, I've seen you in Rwanda speaking at Transform Africa, I've seen you in this space. How do I become part of this? So I think we need to build more heroes, and we also need to just stop talking about crypto and blockchain just as something. You need to inspire somebody to look at the space and say, I want to pursue a career in the space. I want to become a developer. I can be anybody in the space. I could be sitting at a reception desk and understand blockchain. I could be anybody. And that's what I've come to realize. You can actually do anything in this space. I'm working with C-Labs right now based in South Africa. And people don't understand that you don't even have to look up to the African government to be able to do something for yourself. So I think that's the kind of information that we need to be taking out there.
Yoliwe, I have a question for you. Do you think that model works for disseminating information about cryptocurrency? Like, even though, I'm sure that there are people out there doing these multi-level schemes that are, not, they're not giving any value. But do you think that's a good model for disseminating information? Because we do have value to offer, but the marketing method itself may be one to consider, because that's what people are familiar with or, would respond to.
I didn't realize I was muted. So I think it's always good to go to where the people are, right? But then what will make them listen to you? Like I said, it's hard giving somebody information they believe at that point, they don't need it. They need to put food on their table. I need to, there's a politician there running campaigns, and at the end of the day, I'm gonna go back home with 100 rands. Why would I go and listen to Yoliwe when she's not adding any value? If I'm doing these courses online, I mean, I think you're in South Africa, you'd agree with me that data is very expensive. I know there was once a joke that said you'd rather get on a taxi and go show somebody a video than to send it over WhatsApp because it's very expensive. So why do I have to internet connection and my own data, and at the end of the day, there's no value add? So I think we need to find what's that value add, right? What is that value add that we're giving to the people? Besides that, I had this conversation with some of our partners at the United Africa Blockchain Association. I said, okay, we're offering this education, but after that, what next? We have to look at that value add that will make people come to us and say, I want to listen to you because at the end of this, there's something that I'm going to achieve. So if it means us going to this, having a model like that, I think it's great, right? How do we partner and how do we even incentivize people to just learn. I know the crypto space is big. There's over 6,000 cryptocurrencies. What are they doing? How do we incentivize people to learn? How do we bring them to the party? So I think those are some of the questions that that we need to answer.
Yeah, and the thing is, what you said is actually right, because the other day I was speaking to my dad about crypto, and he was telling me, he was like, I don't believe in crypto. I was like, you don't need to believe in crypto. Crypto already exists. You know, it's already here. So I think there's people in Africa. Some people don't really understand actually money, like inflation, interest rate, and different things like that, how it moves and everything. So when you start speaking about it as an asset or about things you can build upon, it will feel foreign for them. So I definitely understand, for somebody that thinks about putting food on their plate, they're not really looking to invest or put their money into that. So knowing that unfortunately our people tend to have like this short attention span, where, for example, if we're doing a podcast about music or about anything else, I believe it will have more traction. So how, as creators, and that's also a question for Maganthrie, how creators or different people in different industry can bring more traction to this thing that is happening and that is important for us.
Um, you know what? I think we could see with how culture almost brought apartheid to its knees. So the role of culture and the role of music is often underestimated and often not used enough. So I think there's two levels. One is artists and musicians need to see how it will work for them. I think this is really important. And I think this is where it's also a question to the panelists and to Yoliwe. Okay, I'm excited about blockchain, but at the end of the day, why should I be? If I'm an artist, why should I be? And so if we can get those people, and it is a real question as well, but I'm saying it could be, once we convince those people, us people, they will sing about it. They, you know, or we could get them as ambassadors. There's different ways in which to rope them in, but they have to see the value. They have to see how it will make a legitimate and concrete difference in their lives. So my question is really, what does that look like?
I'm gonna try answer that question. For me, I'm someone who works within the creative industry, and something that I see a lot of creatives and artists suffer from is that they have the talent, they have the creativity, but they struggle with financial literacy, and that's where maybe they land a gig and they make a good chunk of money, but because they lack financial literacy, that money doesn't last for that long. So within, I guess, educating the artists and creatives more about financial literacy, they'll be able to take control of their art even better with, I guess, blockchain knowledge. So I think that is a very key way that we can bring more artists and creatives into this space. But I guess you need to show them that like there's a marketplace there. So an example I can give is, recently I'm actually the marketing manager for Zoe Pool, which is a stake pool on the Cardano ecosystem. And we hired somebody, an Irish graphic designer here, who she has nothing to do with blockchain, is not involved in that space at all, but she got a job to work on creating the logo for the stake pool. Now, she has, you know, as I said, she has no interest in blockchain, but now look, she's found a new job during the time that maybe there isn't as many clients out there looking for her to do work on. So I think even showing people that opportunity there, that there's a whole new marketplace of all sorts of things happening in blockchain, and people need logos, or maybe they need musicians to perform at their next seminar or whatever it may be, showing them that there's a whole new marketplace that's being created. Don't just ignore it just because it's not what you typically get offered or whatever it may be. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, that's what I'll say for now.
Yeah,
I do agree. Oh, sorry, please go ahead, Mercy.
Okay, I would just something short and then you jump in, Yoliwe. I think it was only yesterday I was listening to, like how, you're trying to sleep and then you're listening to something, you don't really cross-check it, but there was this information that came out that there's actually about $1 trillion of illiquid wealth that is locked up in Africa. So, I'm just going back to the question that, Dingy asked earlier regarding, how can we make this look valuable? So, when we talk about illiquid wealth, it's all these artists, it's all these films that are produced that are pirated. It's all this, like you look at, especially in West Africa, we have all this natural resources that are not really getting onto the world market. So in terms of just that, and maybe at some point, Sydney will talk about some thoughts that he's been having about data and collecting data and all that. But when we look at a company like Facebook, they basically, the way that they make money is to sell data. So we look at all these things and then we begin to see that these are things that when we look at Africa, it's just the wealth is there, in terms of our natural resources, in terms of the books that we are writing that's not getting on the world market, in terms of the films that we are creating that's not going anywhere, the music, the art, so all those things, in terms of getting that into the global market, blockchain is what makes that possible. And those are the possibilities that are, that keeps scientists, especially like in the Cardano ecosystem that we are in, that's what is keeping them up in terms of, okay, how do we get these things onto the blockchain using something that they call oracles. Aside that, we look at somebody like Josh and Virginia, maybe they would also throw a little bit of light on there. But if we can get people to be stake pool operators, because that's what they do, and it generates income. We are in the Cardano ecosystem as well. We have tokens, and we do stake those tokens. I stake mine, and I get, like every 5 days, I get some profit. I know that it would take a while to actually, especially when people are just trying, we look at the pyramid scheme, what do you call it? And people are just surviving, everybody is just at the basic level, just trying to survive. It's really difficult to get them off that and actually, try to think and create and find ways to make money. In addition, like in the crypto space itself, there's a lot of capital that is sort of sloshing around looking for ideas to back. And, the possibilities are just endless. I would agree with Yoliwe that these are conversations that we need, we need to keep having. But I always go back to one of my favorite quotes. We always overestimate what we can do in a year, but in 10 years, I am just seeing so much wealth, in terms for the individuals in Africa and, for the continent, and that is actually going to drive another wealth for the whole world, so to speak. So I think I'll stop here, and then, yeah, I don't know if Yoliwe wants to go or if Virginia wants to talk about his stake pool, whichever one works. Thanks.
I think what I would like to add is also, in order for Africans to start being receptive to the blockchain, it's important that we reach out to the leaders as well, right? Because they also do have some sort of a power over people. And when one or two of these leaders are receptive to, for example, we look at the land situation there is Africa. I'm going to talk about Senegal, right? If we can have developers that can have a pilot that can show them, because that's the other thing. It's like with us Africans, we need to see, feel, touch, right? Speaking all the time they get bored or they're like, whatever. It's easier for you to say you live in America, you know what I mean? But when they see factual examples, if we can have developers that can show, for example, and I'll just go with Senegal, you can own a land, right? And the land can sit there for ages. You don't pay taxes. It really can't be verified, right? Because the ledger is written. So if we can have, these developers that are able to show, somebody like Senegal and say, look, not only do this land can be verified who owns it, but while it is sitting, you can actually get taxes over it. And that trust fund money can be utilized for education. It can be utilized for better roads. So I think that there are certain things that can be done, but we need people to open their minds. I am not telling you what to do. I just want to introduce you to an alternative method. You have been doing this for ages. It's not working. Right? It's not working. So I want you to I want the nation states, these leaders, Africa, like Mercy just said, we have so much wealth in Africa. Charles said it, there's $5.6 trillion locked in Africa. And you have Africans like all of us, including all our allies that are here to say, listen, Africa, there is an alternative method. You don't have to change what you're doing right now, but be receptive to what is being introduced. The blockchain is here to stay, right? I remember when everybody was talking about the internet. It is one of the most decentralized tools out there that, nation states can say, okay, we can, try to stop certain components, but nobody can stop the internet. And that's what blockchain is. It is on fire. It is here to stay. But how do we convey that to these leaders who seem to be so archaic with what is being done? Because in many ways, it is also a way of them to no longer hold power, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once it's decentralized, where is the power that they have on people? But you have to be on the right side of history and understand that as a leader, your first job is to serve your people. They need to understand that. And the leaders in Africa, they need to change the narrative. Right? Africans are educated. Africans are dedicated. Africans are ready. Africans are roaring, right? And it's like, come on, we all are here. Look at us. We all have our day jobs and we all have our lives, but we are sitting here all together from all over. And there are thousands, if not millions of us out there, but our leaders, they need to stand with us, right? When Soko, when you are teaching people the blockchain, you are teaching people how to code, Africa should, the country should allocate these physical spaces, right? For the people to be able to go there. You allocate computers, we should not be at this stage. We should not be at this stage. We should have been up, but we are here today. And for me, my call is to our leaders, the presidents, the singers, the whoever that feel like you have certain power, be on the right side of history, because this is going to change the world. And it is overdue that Africa stands up. So that's my call to these people, to these leaders, whether you are the president. One of the things I really liked, and I think Mercy sent it to me, the president of Ghana, was in front of the president of France. And in his face, he said to him, we are not a charity country. It is great that people within your heart, you find that you need to help me, you do it. But our men and women that are getting into boats, right? Those are survivors. They are getting into boats, right? Some of them, a whole village has to give them a little bit more money that they put in their pockets. And they are riding these waves, whether they make it or not. Guess what? It is that hope and that survivorship that they have in them. So Africans, we are goddamn strong, okay? Whether we are in the Western world or whether we are in Africa, it is time for our leaders to stand up for us. I am sick and tired of all the time, everybody, Africa, 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 and then people think that we Africans are lazy. No, most of the hurdles that we have right now, I do believe it's about our leaders. We are here. The blockchain is here. You don't have to invest in the currency. You don't have to. We are talking about the solutions. And you know, when we talk about Africa, Soko said it early, it's complex. I live in a country with over 15 million people. If you don't speak French, there are 13 dialects. I speak Wolof. Somebody else speak Pole. So just the communication is complex, is challenging, right? But we are here, we can do it. But I want our leaders to stand up. And I also want the Africans that are here in the diaspora, don't just go on social media and perpetrate I am on a what is it called? I drive a Bentley, because that reality is what the one that is in Africa is aspiring to be. And your reality is pretentious. Right? How do we come together and make sure that the minimum, right? People can have water, safe drinking water. How do we do that? How come we have somebody who is from Senegal that was able to get a $6 billion contract to build a what? When it rains, right? People are drowning, right? How do you get a 6 billion, 1% of Senegalese GDP? And what you are talking about is building billion-dollar houses and multi-million-dollar houses. You gotta take—
Virginia, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I'm just curious. In terms of what you're saying, should we be waiting for our leaders to stand up for us?
No. I said that we need to knock at their door. Let's not wait on them. That we need to speak to them directly. Just like we are sending these messages to people about blockchain, I think it is time that we call on them. It is time we put them on blast. We speak directly to them while speaking to everybody else out there, right? Because we can do everything that we can do, right? The blockchain is here, the system is here, but if for example, the president of a country is saying yet, it means that everything that we are doing is really not going to get anywhere. Right?
This is the answer to the artist question, right?
And
Like, what do we need artists to do?
Absolutely. And I just wanted to point out, and I think most of us will agree with what's being said here, is that at some point politically, because we have to define what we mean by leaders, because we have political leaders on one side and we have cultural and social leaders on the other side. I think personally for me, there's some issues in Africa that are there by design. So when you talk about water, access to water, or basic education, I think it's by design. I believe that our leaders have zero interest in providing these things for us. So my thing with crypto and the blockchain and all of that is how us, the people, like social leaders or cultural leaders, how do we leverage this new technology? So, for example, Yaliwe, what would be your pitch, for example, to a rugby player or a Mapiano DJ in South Africa to get them to use this technology in their benefit? These are because political leaders, yes, we will need them at some point, but the pressure, the I think the pressure has to come from beneath, and it's social leaders that will actually bring the masses to be aware of these things and start pushing it to their political leaders. I think they're the latest one to be aware of anything in Africa. So that's why my question will be to a creator or to a sports guy, what benefit do they directly get from blockchain? How they can leverage, or what applications can be built to help them leverage this technology?
Yeah, so I would say, and just to go back, I think when Maganthrie actually mentioned the idea of artists, and I think I mentioned that earlier on. I said people need their own heroes, right? I'll look at the issue of Nigerian artists. I mean, we all listen to Nigerian artists. I mean, we love West African music. There's, like you said, I'm a piano. We listen to that music, and those are the heroes that they need, right? They need those kinds of heroes. But going back to your question, I mean, how do we go to them? Firstly, they need to see the relevance of this technology, right? How does it benefit me as an artist? Artists have managers, right? Sometimes they strip off their royalties. There's a lot of things going on. The blockchain is transparent. It has certain properties, right? There's a way they can get incentives off the network. They can always, so there's a lot that you need to sit down with them and make them understand. Some smart contracts come into these things, right? So there's a lot when it comes to an artist. So it's, yes, us giving them what value there is in the blockchain. I know there's some artists that have reached out to me and they said, hey, they might not be as big as the others. Hey, I've seen what you're doing in the space, and I love crypto. So I think we can start there, and the pressure should come from the bottom, because once you empower the people, the leaders have no choice, but they have to listen. So the people have to be empowered. The people need to understand that, look, you don't have to look up to that president to do things. And just going back to the issue of people in diaspora and all Africans in diaspora and all over the world, I feel like Africans, we've developed this mentality. Even the leaders themselves, we always want to receive. We want to receive. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. As long as in an African family, as long as they have somebody that is in the United States and the UK, wherever, they want to receive. Right. So it's something that is inbuilt. So that is something I say, I do not give, I empower you. Personally, if I want to give my relative something, I hire them to do a job. You have to earn it. So we must start even within our families. We cannot develop that kind of being given things. It's like a hand down mentality. And it's something that has been ongoing. And like I said, we want to expect jobs from government. We want to expect everything. We want to be given. Sometimes I think if Africans had a choice, we would sit down and a plate of food would be on our table, because that's the mentality that we've grown up with, right? And like I said, the blockchain space has become an equalizer. I personally I'm self-taught, and it was a matter of making a choice and saying, look, I need something. Yes, I've got a job, but I need something, because this job might not be there tomorrow. And my mentality was, jobs are never guaranteed. What am I going to do that's going to make me relevant? What can I look into? I came across the blockchain because there's a job that I was doing online and they paid me in crypto. I was like, oh, wow. So I started reading about it and I decided to pursue that. So we have to change, firstly, the mentality. The hand-down mentality, whatever handout mentality has to go. The opportunities out there, people can be creators.
Absolutely. On that, I have a question for Maganthrie, because what you're saying is absolutely important. But how do we change that hand down mentality? It has been the for the past 100 years we've been on that. It has been our energy in Africa, And for example, if I take as a filmmaker or as somebody that creates content, for example, there's a movie by Usman Semben called Gelwar, where he speaks about foreign aid and stuff like that. And what he's saying in that movie is still relevant to this day. Like having this expecting stuff from people will eventually create that dependence, and we'll never be able to go forward and be our own people. So people have been working on these ideas, but how to go to the next level? As a filmmaker, for example, what type of content? Because I feel like some movies from the West tend to have like more impact on us than movies that we make ourselves about real issues. Like people will be more excited about Spider-Man or whatever, and there's real issues that are being documented and that are just being overlooked. So as a filmmaker, and anybody else in the panel can answer to that if they have any leads for that. But how do we change the mentality basically to get people to embrace ownership, to be more confident in general?
So that is such a loaded question. And that is actually days, if not months worth of conversation. So that's the short answer. Just from a content narrative point of view, I think part of our biggest challenge as Africans is we do not know our history. We look around us and it's almost like how Western medicine approaches disease. They look at the symptoms and they don't look at the underlying causes. And so what we're often caught up with is looking around us and saying, pointing out, and also what gets reflected to us, the narrative we've been told about ourselves is actually the narrative we often hold, instead of us creating our own narrative through the knowledge that we actually already have. So I don't know if people are following what I'm saying. So I'm saying so much of what we are seeing is the result, certainly in South Africa, of 367 years of colonialism and apartheid. How we got here, as you said, is by design and is not an accident. So the opportunity we have and what blockchain is allowing us is to create some radical transformation, is to shift the paradigm in a radical way. Yes, all the stuff has been there, layers, years, history, legacy, down pressing people, creating an economic situation of dependency instead of ownership and creation and being creators and not just consumers. So that's a lot of work to undo. I believe it all starts with the story. First, the story we tell ourselves about ourselves as individuals, and then the story we tell ourselves about our families, our communities, and we got to build from the inside out. So this is my New Year's wish, is let's do some radical transformation from the inside out. That's my answer.
Can I try to put some threads together here? So I agree, this could be a several days long conversation to pick all these pieces apart. And just to try to put a few things together, here in the United States, words don't mean what they mean anymore. And one example of that is the word conservative, right? Like to conserve the environment, like Virginia was just talking about, is to recognize its needs and our responsibility towards it, and the way consumption is kind of against that. And we've been told here in the US that to be conservative means something that's very pro-consumption and is often at direct odds with the environment. And not only that, but if you're young and impressionistic and you realize that you want the world, the natural world, to continue to exist, our system labels you either liberal or out of touch with reality. And that makes it really hard to come of age in this country. It's really hard to be like, wait a minute, no, I want the natural world to exist. I thought that was conservation, and you're telling me that these words mean something else. So for artists, I think in general we have to take a world that is upside down, that is literally and factually upside down, and we could, there's other examples besides that word, and we have to give people the confidence to say, hey, the way you're seeing the world, the way you understand being conservative about, for example, the environment, that's okay. That's actually, that is what it means. Don't listen to the leaders who are trying to make you think otherwise. And only then, once people trust themselves to even follow through with the ideas they're having, can that grassroots movement emerge? And so the one that we're looking at right now, I mean, we talk about dependency, and we can talk about the functionality of the blockchain, but what predated dependency was the undermining of our entire monetary system, right? And all of us were born within this system that's actually not that old and hasn't existed for very long, but we've never experienced otherwise. And so I know at a very high level that better money allows us to plan for the longer term. Yeah. The best art takes a long time to create. So showing artists the possibility for longer term work, and not making artists feel like they have to be financially literate about the way things have been for the last 100 years or 400 years, however, whichever time frame we want to focus on, right? But any artist who doesn't want to understand all the intricacies of modern finance, they're exactly right. We should tell them, hey, actually this blockchain thing, it's actually striving to be simpler than modern finance. Let us show you how, and here's what that looks like. And then, I mean, you're not often going to meet an artist who doesn't want to think in a longer time frame. It's just that you can't, what percentage of artists are full-time, right? It's such a minuscule fraction, because all of us need day jobs so that we can support our art, right? And you never get to the point of finding out what it's like to plan in the long term. You have to rely on a day job or a benefactor or a grant or whatever. All right, sorry, I'm rambling, but like all these pieces, they fit together. And I have high hopes for artists in 2021 to like help us make sense of what things are supposed to mean in the first place.
Yeah, how can we get more people involved? Because at the intersection of all of these conversations is that there just needs to be more people. The conversation, the information that Virginia gave us. Like we have these leaders, which are the few compared to the many. The leaders, the few, ruling the many, controlling the many. How do we get on the other side of that and we get the many? Because I think it's kind of hinted here as well that like this is a revolution. The whole blockchain space is a revolution. I've thought about this a lot. If I was sitting at the top, I would be the same way. Like, look, I'm happy for your new technology. It's all cool and cute, you know what I mean? But you are not taking what's mine. So I'm not going down because of some, social, we're going to be all happy and together. That's not how they think. That's not how they've ever thought. I mean, they've built out systems that have lasted centuries to keep certain people in power, and those systems are not going anywhere. You know what I mean? They're going to try to co-opt them. They're just like they did the internet. Everybody was really excited about the internet. This democracy of information, and everybody can. And no, there's a few companies that own the internet, and if they want to shut you off, they'll shut you off when they're ready to do it. And so like how do we get the many? Like what do we need to do in order to get the many? And it's probably kind of a baseline solution, something very, and Yoliwe, just like you're like what you were saying, like I need to eat. You know what I mean? I like your technology seems really cool, it's fun and all of that stuff, but I need to eat and I need to feed my family. So how can you help me understand how this technology is going to help me eat? And and I wanted to say something as well. from what everyone was saying here, and you know, specifically Maganthrie, what you communicated, which is this, and you too, Yoliwe, just like this idea of having our own heroes and knowing our own history, because to me that's the biggest part that's missing, because we've been here before. This is not new for Africans in the diaspora. We've given the world like everything, you know what I mean? From science to art to language to, you know, you name it, you know what I mean? And there's like this idea that we have to, I don't know. I think about us reclaiming our history, you know what I mean? I think about us remembering what we've given, you know, and this has been said many times before. You don't know where you're going if you don't know where you came from, you know, and I do. I think that and so personally, I think that there's information that exists in our culture that we're not touching, that is like essential for moving forward, because it doesn't look like the West. And like my thing is like getting, you know, little black boys and black girls to not think like the West, not to be a better financial system, you know, not to out West the West, you know, but to start to you know, dream again, you know, because it's that place that the pyramids were created, and all of the other stuff that exists across the African continent was created, and which we're trying to, because the West looks a certain way, because like you said, they got Benzes and you know, and stuff, you know, and we're like aspiring to this emptiness, you know, but we need to like we need to remember. We need to remember, and it's not remembering just for us on the African continent. It's remembering for the entire world, you know. So, like, how do we get the many involved? Because I sincerely believe this, because I have a cousin, you know, and he can tear a car down to the rubber and build it back up, you know, literally. But he doesn't have a license. He can't get a job. You know what I mean? I can take my car to him. He'll hook it up for me, but he can't get a job in a place to make, you know, all of the money and everything. So how do we get those imaginations, you know, that are very vivid when they're young, and then it's suppressed as they get into their, you know, probably 10, 11, 12. You can't think that way. You can't dream that way. You have to think this way. You have to, you know, this is how the world works. How do we liberate those minds and keep them liberated? Because like I say, if we can do that, our problems are solved. That anything that we need to figure out will be figured out, because the brilliance that exists in the community is really unmatched.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, just I think that what's got me is, how do we get the many involved, right? And I would say, let's use what we have to get what we want. And I think what we have right now that I've seen is social media. I've seen the power of social media in Africa. I mean, almost everyone I know is either on Instagram or on Facebook, and I've seen this new I think this new phenomenon coming up. Joshua, in Nigeria, right? I've seen all sorts of comedians, and they have huge followings, including the big artists that we're looking for. I mean, there's this girl from Kenya, what's her name? Elsa Majimbo. She just became a global phenomenon just like that through social media. So we can maybe start with, we reach out to those people that are easily accessible right now, right? A social media, Instagram, even if they do a little, I mean, and this goes back to Maganthrie, even if they just do little sketches talking about blockchain, because they have huge followings. They have artists, big artists following them. I mean, verified artists. So that's where we can get them. I think that's one of the tools that I would use to get them.
What would we put them into? Like what would we put? Because I mean, there's the you know, kind of the you know, the financial opportunity.
Sydney, I've seen this. I've seen a lot of, and if I can come across some of them, I can send them. I've seen there's in Nigeria right now. What I'm seeing is people are talking about Bitcoin. Not even they're talking about Bitcoin. They're talking about trading, and they're having all the sketches promoting maybe a person's company. I mean, they're being paid something. I don't think it's even much, because they have huge followings, and sometimes it's hard for them to monetize that. So people are now using them to even advertise a trading company run by individuals. So how do we use those people to relay the right message, right? Not only a message that says, hey, if you trade with this person, you're going to make a profit, but how do we now start to use them to relay, and also how do we add value to them? So I think the first is the value addition. We have to think about that. Why would we want them to come to us? And I mean, spread that message that we're trying to deliver to the people.
I threw it, I just wanted to jump in really quick because I had a long conversation with Josh, who's not here, Josh Fielding, who's not here, and then also Lamine. There was an idea that, because I've been thinking about this quite a bit, and and thinking about it from a finance perspective, because like in investing, the whole idea in investing is getting something at a discount. So there's this company that's out there called Facebook, and we think Facebook came up with this great idea. We think they're going to be around 10, 15 years in the future. So if I buy their shares right now, I get them at a discount. So and the shares that I get will appreciate, and in the future I'll make more money or whatever. I'll get more money from the shares. And so I was thinking about it more so from like the contribution that the Black people offer to the world. You know, like for instance, in America, the purchasing power of African Americans, Black Americans in this country is about $1 trillion annually. And then you know, across the world, of course, that's going to be a lot more. Not to mention, we're adding other value to the economy or to social systems in ways that's not necessarily being, you know, identified or compensated. So I mean, like So like my idea was like, and I come from a data science analytics background. Like in our past primary, Andrew Yang, who ran for president, said that oil is the new data, which I understand that, and I think people understand that analogy, that companies are monetizing something that belongs to us. They're monetizing our data. So if there was some kind of way that we could take control of that, you know, and attach a token to it. And this is, I mean, I don't like using tokens because token is like, it's not a, you know, it's people take advantage of people with this idea of token. But I'm for lack of a better word, I'm just using the word token. But if there's some way that we could, you know, like tokenize it so that we're in a sense betting, and I had this conversation with Maganthrie, you as well. We're betting on the contributions that Africans in the diaspora are going to provide to the world. So right now, let's say right where we are today, you can get this token, okay? And that token at some level represents our contribution to the world as a whole, not only economic, but socially and otherwise. You know, and then in the future, my bet is, that that value is only going to grow. So Africans in the diaspora are only going to provide more value to the world. So if you take this idea of this token here, you know what I mean, and people own it, you know, and if you're African American or whatever, you know, there's a way that you can get in early on this, you know what I mean, even if it's like airdropped. I don't know, it doesn't really matter to me how they get it, but the idea is that it's attached to our contribution to the world, you know what I mean, and as it grows, and anybody could invest in it, as it grows, then and there's kind of a voting mechanism to it. So, you know, there's value that's generated from it, and then the people that have it are able to vote on what projects are most important for the African community or African in the diaspora community. So we can start getting resources to those areas, because that's one of the biggest problems. Is like, you know, you get one shot, you know what I mean? As an African American, you get one shot, you know, and if you don't hit the mark, then you might be, you know, it might not work for you. In other communities, folks are encouraged to fail. You know, they get multiple shots. Not to mention they have all kinds of resources they can continue to draw on if they fail. So, you know, like in our communities, you know, there's this like, I got to get it right, you know, and because I approach my business that way, that means that I do the website, I do the graphic design, I deliver the product and service, I do the finance, you know what I mean? We have to like learn all of this stuff so that we can try to do it on our own. And it's admirable, but that's not how you build. You know what I mean? You have to build in a way that allows you to focus on whatever your thing is. And then those people who are needed for support can focus on their thing. So, I mean, that's just kind of the idea that I'm playing around with right now. I had a long conversation with Lamine and Josh, and just like trying to think through how something like that could come to be, because the way that I'm thinking about it is that's the only way that I can think about right now that would bring people that are on the continent and people that are in the diaspora together under one umbrella. Because like it's like, okay, yeah, I'm a part of this thing, whatever it is. I have this token or whatever. Yeah, I'm voting too. You know what I mean? And it kind of puts us on the same page about how we look at our communities.
That's a good idea.
It's a lot to unpack here.
A whole lot.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea, but yeah, if you can work it out from a technology standpoint, I think it would be amazing.
That's the easy part. The technology part is the easy part. That's already worked out.
But the hard part, that's what I'm saying. That's the easy part. But the hard part is, once again, the change of mentality and the change of mentality. So that part is the part that I feel is the biggest hurdle. And the conversation we had about having our own heroes and everything is a way forward in that direction. But my question is this: for example, for Yoliwe, she was paid in cryptocurrency, and she went ahead and learned about it. Some people would have just been paid and just go to and get their money and live the rest of their life not caring about crypto. So it's that emotional trigger that she had, or maybe something with her personality, she can expand on it. But the fact that she was unsatisfied with just getting paid or with just having a job, she went above and beyond to learn about something new. And that's the type of spirit I believe that would be the main thing that will drive your idea forward. For example, people will say, okay, I'm not only buying a service, I want to go and impact these projects and stuff that are bigger than just transactional stuff.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm jumping real quick. So like my some time ago, I owned a self-development company, and I was trained in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming and hypnosis and all of that other kind of stuff. And I worked with, actually, if you know who Anthony Robbins is, I used to train some of his students. And so one thing that I learned is that, number one, we are always making the best choice that's in front of us. So like somebody can make a choice, and me, being, in a different position, a meta position, I see their choice. And I'm like, why would you make that choice? That's a dumb choice. You know what I mean? But they're always making the choice, the best choice that's available to them. So everyone, in my opinion, is like it's innate that we all provide some kind of value. It's innate that we be a part of society, whether that looks like me being a mother or father to my child or whatever, you know what I mean? All of us, there's something in us that makes us a part of humanity. You know what I mean? And I think that that's something that we can like tap into regarding the kind of the motivation piece, because I agree, there's, Yoliwe is like, I mean, those are the special people, you know what I mean? Because not, people don't do that. I mean, like my community too. I mean, all of us have had conversations with people about cryptocurrency that are not in cryptocurrency right now. You know what I mean? So there are certain people that like they get it, and it's not just about cryptocurrency. It's just in general, like this progressive way of looking at life, and a lot of those people they're gonna go with or without, me, us, they're gonna go. Although the people that tend to be like left behind are the ones that don't have that, you know what I mean? And at the same time, they do have value to offer. And we have to help them kind of tap into that and pull that forward.
Absolutely.
Maganthrie?
So I just want to add, just in terms of when we're thinking of the masses, we should think of the what's the word? The tipping point, and what is the critical mass? Because masses can be quite
Absolutely.
overwhelming. I believe it's something like 2 to 4% is actually the tipping point. So if we can, within our own spheres of influence, and you know, if we just reach 2 to 4%, we'll have, you know, done more than we realize. So that it doesn't feel too overwhelming, and will we ever get there? So it feels more doable as well.
I agree completely, and it's a foot race right now because we have to get to that tipping point before the powers that be catch on, right? So, and one of those two things is going to happen really soon. I hope it's that tipping point that you're talking about.
And just to add on that, Maganthrie, I think in Africa we have this thing of this philosophy, right? Of, look, we learn from the people around us. So it's kind of, I normally say we have to adopt this thing of each one teach one, right? So with the United Africa Blockchain Association, we have an initiative that we call Train the Trainer. So we say, okay, fine, we're going to take 30 people. And each of those people, we tell them, look, we want you to speak to about a minimum of 10 people in your communities about blockchain technology. Just speak to them. You don't have to really teach them the hard stuff. Just tell them what it is and report back to us. That way we've covered more ground than we would have covered if we just brought everybody and said, hey, come and learn. And then as part of that, we say, hey, identify one problem, identify a problem in your community that you believe you can solve, and come back to us, and we start looking at providing a solution to that problem. So it's kind of just using the traditional way of oral tradition. We normally say that. It comes from my grandmother. That's why we have a culture that has been taught from my grandmother to my mother, to me, and to my daughter, and to everybody else. So we can use the same model, a model that speaks to the African culture.
If I may add that, I think that that system is very effective because it is understanding the African culture, right? It's a continent, but what you just said is how most Africans receive information and act on it. It is not give me that book, or it is not literature. It is while I'm having lunch, we all sitting, or we having tea. That's how we get the information. And it is important, boots on the ground. I love that, right? I was speaking to Mercy one day and I said, you know, I think my time in America is done. It's time for me to go back to Senegal, to wear my tennis shoes and just shout out Cardano and all the benefits. Like, really? I said, yes, I'm gonna do that. Because, you know, and there are just some people where, and there's nothing wrong with that, they're just not gonna get it. They're not gonna be interested. They're just not gonna get it. It's life. Right? And it's just life. But you look at Africa, right? Who is not on social media? You were saying it earlier. Almost everybody's on social media. So what does that mean? It means they have their smartphones. It means that they have access to the internet. Why aren't we doing something more like bringing the blockchain and understanding, you know, and talking about all these solutions that we can do, you know, to solve these problems? I look at the big exchanges, like, I'm not going to name names. I don't know if it's that legal or not, but the big exchanges, right? When you can onboard people. So you know, doing my research, just a little bit of research, I wonder, there are approximately, if I'm not mistaken, about 34 French-speaking African countries, right? 14 or 15 of them use the same fiat, the same CFA. There's not one exchange to onboard any of those people available. And I'm just wondering, like, okay, so if I am a $1 trillion business, I am already in Africa, why have I not identified this and make it a solution, right? And bring in solutions. why are the banks that are issuing these banks in French-speaking countries in Africa aren't part of this technology? What is going on here? So sometimes I understand how people, and I used to be that way. I remember when my partners first said, we are going to start this, the stake pooling, and we want you to be speaking to people. And I said, I'm not going to do that. And they said, why won't you do that? And I said, because as an African, I have never been invited to anything. And they looked at me and they said, what do you mean? I said, just look around the Western world. Who is having a conversation with us Africans? Who is putting out any product out there and saying, you Africans? And then I sat and then I thought about it and I said, you are part of the problem, Virginia. Why are you waiting to be invited? Why? What is wrong with you? So for us to get the information out there, we also, like what you are doing, Yoliwe, is absolute. It is very effective, right?
It's amazing.
It is amazing. And you need support. You need, and in the kind of support I'm talking about is you need support from your government because you are bringing value to your country.
Yeah.
Right?
I have a quick question about for Yoliwe. Do you have like an ambassadors program through your initiative?
Exactly. That's what I wrote down. Ambassadors program.
Right. So since we're a nonprofit organization, so we do take volunteers if anyone wants to be part of it. So yeah.
I see.
And Larry is the person to speak to.
We need to be part of that. That's amazing.
I will send the email and the details.
Yeah. Like I am so excited and so proud of what Josh is doing, for example, right? Having the hubs on the ground, what Mercy is talking about. It's just, oh, I feel like I am not doing anything. I get frustrated.
No, you're doing,
But,
baby steps, it's baby steps.
Yeah. And Josh is doing some amazing work. I had this question, Maganthrie, when you and I last talked about developers in South Africa. Yoliwe, is there like a like are there developers that are pretty much available in South Africa? Because I know what Josh is doing right now is building something in Nigeria. And like my thought was, why not try to build a this group of developers? Because if you have this group of developers, then they can be available to projects all across the world. Because I know that if there was something going on here in the States, I would absolutely love to pass projects on to developers that are either on the continent or developers that are in the diaspora.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, Maganthrie, please go ahead.
I think you do need to speak to that. But one of the things I was saying is having spent like 6 months just trying to get a sense of where developers were in the South African context, I feel like there are developers, but finding them, accessing them, like a database for developers, that may be a solution, a way to access. And also, if we're looking for African developers, if we're looking for Black developers, the challenge is within the South African context, it is very racialized. And it feels like it's kept exclusive in that way. And there's this issue of cultural fit. There isn't a cultural fit. And so a lot of people don't pass through into that next stage. So yeah, so I believe they are out there. I believe there are plenty of folks who've been doing computer engineering and computer science and who even have been doing development in school and may be working on their own and developing their own skills, but a way for them to kind of find each other and find a way to communicate with the world. I feel that may be like a gap and an opportunity as well.
So mostly there are some hubs around. Not very many in Johannesburg, but if you're looking for developers, you should get them at Stellenbosch University anyway in Cape Town. So just going back to Maganthrie, it's kind of, yeah, you can find them there, and their solutions being built, but it's there, right? So we're actually working on a developer initiative I think early next year with the Ethereum Foundation, just to try and educate and also to try and find solutions, use cases starting from South Africa and the rest of Africa. I mean, I'm working on an initiative right now called Umoja. It was actually shortlisted by UNICEF Innovation. It's kind of trying to do lending on the blockchain in crypto. And this is something that I came up with because I identified a need in South Africa. And mainly it was because I looked at the South African women, and South African women work very hard, but they can rarely meet their monthly expenses. You find that by the 15th, they're out of money. They can't make it to work. Sometimes they can't even buy groceries, and they end up borrowing money from loan sharks. And it becomes a trend, right? They keep on borrowing and paying back and borrowing, and it's like at 50%. So I tried to look at an initiative whereby how do we digitize this? How do we use cryptocurrency? And how do we build a platform that helps women? So I came up with Umoja, which means unity in Swahili. And I started a group lending initiative. Right now, it's something that I'll do out of my pocket. And the response in 2 months, I'd helped over 30 women. And it's microloans. So I looked at it saying, okay, look, they borrow between 1,000 rands, 2,000 rands. So if we give a group of 3 to 5 women $300, they will be able to subsidize their income, and they can do something with it. But I just didn't want it to be a lending platform. So I attached a marketplace to that. And I told them, hey, here's a WhatsApp marketplace. I want you to go and start a small business, go into Joburg CBD, buy things, post on the WhatsApp group. And it was overwhelming. People would sell anything from food to clothes. And that's an initiative that I started it off analog, and now we're working on it and trying to build it on the blockchain. And UNICEF shortlisted it. So they were looking for initiatives like that. So we have, like I said, we have to identify problems, and they're there, right?
Yeah,
they're there. We can do something about it. And when you empower those women, it's easier to speak to them about blockchain. It's easier to speak to them about crypto because they're getting help in crypto, and they're able to exchange it for fiat if they wanted to.
Yeah, that's wow.
Nice.
That's
This is a dope idea.
Yeah, it is.
Dope idea.
So the group, Josh, who was just on, and then Tashoma, who wasn't able to make it, and then DC, Dwayne Cameron, who wasn't on today. They created that solution that you're talking about. I think it would be awesome if you guys even just to share information, not to build a project, build on that project together, but they're solving that problem on the Cardano blockchain. And so they're going to have really they started off with basically liquidity pools in Nigeria. That was kind of the foundation of when they started the project. But now it's like, kind of a liquidity pool for Cardano. And I think it would be really cool to have a conversation with them to see how far they've gotten, where they are, because it might be something that there might be something there. There might be some way, there might be information, kind of some information sharing there.
We also have a question in the chat from somebody.
No, definitely.
In the chat, we have a question about just getting more involved, Yoliwe, in what you're talking about right now. So I wonder if, you can share now, of course, more, but I wonder if you can share some links and details and places that people could go, and we could blast out to our mailing list about that. Yeah.
You can. Okay, I'm just going to share emails, so you can reach out to myself, my assistant Anita.
I will.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, she's very responsive. Then we can just have a conversation around how you can get involved.
Amazing collaboration. People getting into the spirit, you know.
I know. It's
My-
just so amazing.
This
And
is this
this is what
this
I
is
love
what we're
about
looking for.
African. It's just so wonderful.
Yep.
Just have like
And
normal people.
yeah, and people thinking about solutions, not being problem centric. People thinking about solutions. That was my goal for the episode today, to be focused on providing solutions and thinking about how to finesse our way into making this happen for our people. And we got great information from Yoliwe and also Maganthrie. We've hit the 1 hour 30 mark. So the episode is actually much longer than usual. It was so interesting. I didn't even feel it. So, and I feel like this is a conversation that needs to continue. I think once we have all the week to think about the different solutions and different ideas that we discussed today, I think people can come back next week with a different outlook on things, more information. I really did love the episode today. If I'll leave our guests the last word to our guests that we have, Yoliwe, Maganthrie, and wrap it up.
Oh, I don't know what to say. Just thanks for having me.
I know, but thank you for being here. It was amazing. We did learn a lot.
Actually, I had a bit of a mix up with the time because Larry told me it was 1 p.m. our time.
Oh.
That's why I asked Sydney about two times. What time?
Yes.
South African time. Also because of,
I had
of
to
the
check again.
American.
Oh no, I'm safe. Thank you so
Yeah,
much,
but-
everyone, and
Yeah, it
thanks.
was amazing. Thank you for the amazing work that you are doing for South African women, South African youth in general, the education that you are doing. And now we understand why the CV is so extensive. You are an interesting person with great intentions. So big up to you. I mean, and this is this is my word for the end. If everybody has something else to say, thank you very much to all our guests, Maganthrie and Dingy. It was an amazing conversation.
And can I just say thank you to you all who began this journey and who are holding the vision. And just to remind us that even though we may not see everything we want to see in any immediate way, holding the vision for right now is actually probably the biggest job we can all do. So thank you for that, and keep holding the vision.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.